From now on, we'll manage the house ourselves. You need to find another place to live. My brother and his wife, with my mother's support, want me out, treating me like an obstacle. Do they realize I've been covering the living expenses? It's surprising they'd be so disrespectful. In my head, I decided to take action. I'm Carrie, a 30-year-old woman living with my parents. After college, I tried to make it in the outside world, but found it tough. Initially, I searched for jobs while getting unemployment benefits. Later, I discovered remote work and became a freelance engineer, using my scientific skills. Starting with small projects, I earned modest income but gained valuable experience. Working from home allowed me to make enough money without dealing with people too much, boosting my confidence. I progressed steadily, taking on larger projects, and my income grew. After a year, I earned as much as a regular company employee. The issue is, my parents, especially my old-fashioned mother, struggled to understand my work-from-home setup, despite my detailed explanations. My father gets it, but my mother fears what she doesn't understand. No matter how many times I emphasized my commitment to my job, my mother would say things like, "How long will you stay home? I initially thought it was for your mental health, but it's been over 2 years. You should try working outside more." Despite my sincere explanations, she didn't quite grasp it. She often suspected my online work, saying, "You're just doing something online." How could I make her understand? Even with emails from clients and my salary statements, she wouldn't accept my lifestyle. She went as far as suggesting, "Isn't it some shady business or a weird religion you're into?" That's not true. I receive regular payments and it's a reliable job. I explained, but she wouldn't budge, worrying endlessly about the possibility of it being unemployment benefits. I had thought about living on my own, but I hadn't saved enough money yet. Around that time, my father needed nursing care due to deteriorating health. He retired early, facing a sudden loss of income. When I expressed concern, he reassured me, "Oh, Carrie, I've got my pension. I'll make it work." Considering my mother's spending habits, I asked, "Are you sure you can handle it?" Regardless, we had to manage with our savings. My father looked tired, perhaps feeling anxious about the future. He supported me financially through college and even when I returned home due to mental health issues. Is it a good idea to leave my father alone and live on my own? My mother was also puzzled by my father's sudden condition. Wanting to give back, I decided to stay home and support the family. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll take care of things from now on." "Oh, really?" My surprised father questioned. "But I can't imagine you have that much income." "Don't worry, Dad. My current income is stable." To reassure him, I showed my bank account information. Since my father always understood my situation, I believed he would be convinced. "Carrie, I didn't know you were so solid." "Yeah, my income has improved lately. Can you help us out a little?" "Of course, you've done so much for us, so I'll support you from now on." "Thank you, Carrie." This commitment led me to cover the living expenses, my father's medical bills, and other costs. Every month, I transferred a set amount to my father's bank account to assist with household expenses, creating a new main card for my mother and giving her a supplementary card, as she'd have been using my father's credit card. Both my father and I saved money whenever possible, urging my mother to do the same. However, my mother, still suspicious about my support, suggested kicking me out of the house. My father, recognizing my financial contribution, convinced her it would be harder without me. Reluctantly, she agreed to let me live with them. I continued working while helping at home, but my mother took my assistance for granted and became strict. "Can't you finish your chores faster?" "Sorry, it's not easy. I'm working at the same time." "You keep saying that, but is it really that difficult?" My mother didn't understand, and our relationship became increasingly strained. My father understood my efforts, and we lived this way for a year. However, after a year, he fell ill and had to be hospitalized. I visited him daily. "Hey, Dad, how are you today?" "Thank you, Carrie. It doesn't seem to be improving, but I hope it's less of a burden for you." "Don't think that way. Taking care of you wasn't a burden. but I know you and Mom haven't been getting along. After my father's hospitalization, my relationship with my mother worsened. Living with her felt suffocating, but I still wanted to support both my parents as a family. I cherished memories of my mother making my lunchbox and putting effort into dinner when I was a student. However, my perspective changed when my brother Kevin and his wife Mary unexpectedly arrived one day. My mother seemed to have invited them without telling me. My brother announced, "We're going to live here now." I was shocked and asked why. He explained, "Mom was worried. She thought it might be tough for you to live here alone while Dad's not around." Surprised, I turned to my mother, but she avoided eye contact. My brother added, "We'll support you, Carrie." His wife, however, hinted at something more with a smirk. My mother stated, "Thanks, both of you. Carrie, be prepared to contribute. Otherwise, it might be hard for you to stay in this house." The situation with my brother and his wife being invited to our house was unexpected. My brother, with a degree from a prestigious college, worked for a solid company, presumably earning a good salary. However, I was also dedicated to my work. Could they manage without me? A new chapter of living together began. Living with them turned out to be more challenging than I thought. "Carrie, why aren't you up yet? Wake up and make breakfast." My brother's wife yelled, banging on my door. "I'm already up. I'm working early." I was fully awake and in work mode as a morning person. This was my most focused time of the day, and I wanted to spend it without any disturbances. "Really? Then get on with it and get breakfast ready." Do I have to make everything by myself? Our family usually had a relaxed morning, eating when and what we wanted. With my mother and brother's wife at home, I thought it was normal for her to prepare breakfast. She insisted, "We're living together, so we need to cooperate, right?" Reluctantly, I helped prepare breakfast, but they weren't satisfied. "Is this all you made? This isn't enough." I had prepared soft scrambled eggs, a lettuce salad, buttered toast, and a juicy sausage, a decent breakfast, I thought. Did I miss something? "If you don't want it, you don't have to eat it." They looked surprised at this response. "What's with that attitude? Who do you think you are? This is unacceptable. You should help with the housework." "But I have work to do too." "Work, really? I can't believe it. What kind of work is that? Are you crazy?" My brother and his wife questioned and scolded me. My brother, influenced by my mother, tended to look down on me and make fun of me. Despite this, my work time was precious. I headed to my room, packed my laptop, and left the house. "Wait, where are you going?" Ignoring my brother's voice, I went straight to my father's hospital room. He looked surprised as I entered. "Carrie, what's wrong? You seem flustered." I explained the situation, and my father expressed surprise. "I didn't know they were. I'm sorry, Carrie. Don't worry about it. You can choose your own way of life." Feeling lost, I thought about my mother's comfort with Kevin at home. My father reassured me, "You don't need to stay where you're not comfortable. I want you to live happily, so live your life the way you want to." "Thank you, Father." Encouraged by my father, I decided to leave home. When I returned in the evening, a tense scene awaited me. My mother, brother, and sister-in-law looked serious. "Where were you, brother? Weren't you at work? I had to take the day off because of you. How could you take a day off for such a reason?" Internally, I was surprised at how easily my brother took time off work. Wasn't that too irresponsible? Gradually, my brother and his wife's voices grew more heated. "Get out of here," he declared. "Why?" I asked. "Carrie, from now on, the three of us will live together. If you don't want to stay, please leave. We don't need your overbearing presence to support us." They attempted to kick me out of the house. "Carrie, that's enough. You don't need to be here now that your father is gone." Strangely, my mother echoed my brother and his wife, treating me as a hindrance. Did she comprehend my financial contributions to the family? Despite her monthly purchases of branded goods, what would she do when her allowance was reduced? I felt furious. No matter how many times I explained, my mother, brother, and sister-in-law ignored my story. It was getting unbearable. so I decided to employ a little trick. First, I transferred the money from the bank account linked to my mother's credit card to another account under my management. I hoped this would surprise her when she could no longer use her credit card. Additionally, I moved some funds from my father's account, which had been supporting the family finances similarly. Only my father's medical expenses could be covered from his separate account, unknown to my mother. Consequently, a significant portion of the family's financial responsibility now rested on my brother and his wife. Not knowing the details of my brother's income, I was certain he would now feel the burden more than ever. After completing all the necessary formalities, I packed my belongings and declared, "I'm leaving this place." My mother, brother, and sister-in-law looked surprised at my words. Despite their constant harassment, they didn't anticipate that I would actually take action. But as I observed their expressions, it seemed like they were enjoying the situation. "You're finally leaving. I've never seen such a troublesome person. You won't be coming back, will you?" Their relentless belittling was unbelievable. "Of course not. Don't contact me." They smiled as I left, but what would they think after I departed? Internally, I smiled and embarked on a new life. My new home was peaceful, allowing me to savor my own time and concentrate on my work. As expected, one day, I received a call from my brother. "I told you not to contact me. What's wrong?" His voice carried surprise and urgency. "Oh, that? Yes, that's right. Why are you asking now? Why didn't you tell me? We had no idea." "Well, I did mention several times that I was working, but neither you nor Mom believed me, right?" Well, Mom said a lot of things, and I was a little confused, so that's not my fault, right?" "No, it's not. But I'm having a problem with money. Mom's been spending quite a bit. And on top of that, we haven't been able to pay the house utilities and stuff." "Yes, I was able to do it because I was supporting you in so many ways. I'm not home anymore, so you have to do it, Carrie. I need your help to transfer some money to my bank account." "What? I beg you. Can you transfer some money over now?" "You must be joking. You're working for a big company. Isn't that how you make a living?" "Well, actually, I got fired from that company." "What? Why?" "I made a big mistake. Was that before you moved back to our parents' house?" My brother's reply left me speechless. I guessed correctly. My brother may have come back to my parents' house thinking that there was enough money in the house. He probably thought he would be able to get by with a solid pension coming in after my father retired. I wish to convey to my brother that I played a significant role in supporting the family finances despite appearing idle. The thought of the surprise on his face when he discovered that I was the one maintaining the household finances, assuming they were stable, brought a certain amusement. The same revelation awaited my brother's wife and mother. My brother's wife implored, "We need your help. We're running out of savings." My mother echoed, "Your father is really upset about this. He won't contribute to the household finances anymore. We're in a tough situation. I've supported you enough. You're all healthy, so work hard and support yourselves. I'll cheer you on." A frightened voice came through the phone. "Reflect on your actions. I'm hanging up now. Don't contact me." "But Carrie, wait a minute." I distanced myself from my brother, his wife, and my mother. My father felt unable to return to his life with my mother, seeking legal advice and relocating to a different place. Fortunately, I could visit him daily. A friend updated me on my brother's recent situation. He had moved to a small apartment, living a frugal life. My mother, accustomed to homemaking, struggled with her newfound job. My brother, with his college confidence, found it challenging to adapt to younger staff's opinions in his part-time job, resulting in a short-lived employment. Among them, my brother's wife was the sole provider working diligently to support the family finances. However, it seemed the pressure became too much, and she eventually departed. Now my brother and mother are reportedly working hard together. Despite their efforts, my mother's tendency to overspend persists, and her debts continue to mount. I am concerned for her, but unfortunately, I can no longer offer assistance. I am currently putting in a lot of effort in a comfortable living space. My income is gradually increasing, and I'm contemplating trying something new. I aspire to visit my father daily and spend more time with him to witness his cheerful smile. My ex-husband and his family, who used to be nice, turned out to be different than I thought. It all started when they learned I inherited money from my ancestors. Dealing with their changed behavior was tough, even though I knew that money could change people. This eventually led to our divorce, and now I have no connection with my in-laws. Apparently, their household is still chaotic. A few years ago, my aunt, who worked hard and invested wisely, passed away. Although I didn't pay much attention to her wealth initially, my mother once mentioned that my aunt had substantial assets. Despite her financial stability, my aunt was frugal. She cooked her own meals, shopped at regular supermarkets, and preferred quality over quantity when it came to clothing. I always admired and loved her values. Back in her time, it was common for men to work outside, while women took care of the home. Despite earning more than many men, my aunt faced criticism for breaking this norm. She was unmarried, without children, and lived life on her own terms. People saw her as different, but she didn't let it bother her. In fact, she had an attitude of let them say what they want and remained confident. One day, while we were casually sipping tea on the sofa, she surprised me by saying, "If something happens to me, I want you to inherit my estate." Startled by her sudden statement, I asked her to explain. She said, "I'm not married and I don't have children. So who else should inherit my assets but someone who has faced belittlement and judgment from those around me? I don't want them getting my money. I still need to prepare the inheritance documents, but I want to clearly state that you are the heir," she said with a smile, but in a serious tone. When she shared this with me, I didn't question it and simply agreed. I thought, if that's what my aunt wanted, she had the right to decide. At that time, she was only in her 40s, and the actual day of inheritance seemed so distant, probably 30 or 40 years away. Being still in high school, I had little understanding of inheritance or estates. Honestly, I considered her statement as a joke. Years passed. I got married, had children, and got caught up in the business of life. It was during this time that my mother informed me about my aunt's declining health. Panicking, I rushed to the hospital where she was supposed to be admitted. On reaching there, my seemingly energetic aunt greeted me, dismissing the notion that she wasn't feeling well. She assured me it was just a routine checkup and that I shouldn't worry. Reassured by her usual smile, I thought everything was fine. However, unbeknownst to me, her health was deteriorating, and her frequent hospitalizations indicated the severity of her condition. Each time she was admitted, I'd bring my children along to visit. With each passing day, I noticed her cheeks hollowing, her arms and neck becoming thin, and her overall strength visibly diminishing. Despite her frailty, she always greeted me with a smile, portraying immense strength. It was the same smile I had known since childhood. I held on to hope for her recovery, but sadly, she eventually passed away. The funeral was an intimate gathering of close family, and I couldn't help but feel regret. I wished I had visited more frequently or adjusted our schedules to create more shared memories. I knew, though, that regretting it afterward was futile. My children, who adored my aunt, also felt the sense of loss. Witnessing their sorrow and regret for not spending more time with her added to my own pain. In the midst of grieving, I received an A4-sized brown envelope at my doorstep. Glancing at the sender, I saw it was from a lawyer's office. Confused, I wondered why they would send me something when I had no memory of involving a lawyer. I hadn't been aware of any legal matters or crimes. I cautiously opened the envelope and examined its contents. It contained details related to my aunt's inheritance, making me realize that her statement from long ago wasn't a joke, and I needed to verify the information. I reached out to the lawyer's office, and during the conversation, I discovered that my aunt and the lawyer were old friends who had maintained contact. The lawyer had been entrusted with handling matters regarding her estate and inheritance after her passing. When the lawyer revealed the total amount of my aunt's estate, I was taken aback. I had anticipated a few million at most, but it exceeded 200 million. Confused by this substantial sum, I contacted my mother. After discussing with the lawyer, she shared surprising news, saying, "It seems you yourself agreed to be your sister's heir." She asked me about it after your high school graduation, and I told her that it was acceptable if that's what you both decided. Her response caught me off guard, but my mother remained optimistic. Despite my unease about managing such a large amount of money, my mother suggested, "Your sister went through the trouble of leaving the documents for you, so why not accept it gratefully?" She casually added, "She left all the documents for you, so you should take them gratefully." When I questioned if she didn't want to inherit the property, she explained, "Inheritances can often lead to family disputes. A long time ago, one of my grandmother's brothers passed away without a will, causing daily fights among the siblings and their children over the inheritance. Your sister, however, left a document stating that you would inherit the estate, so it wouldn't be right for me to claim it. Just be cautious with your in-laws and husband." She shared a cautionary tale, remembering the past, despite my assurance that my husband wouldn't be concerned. Little did I know that this would later become a reality. A few days later, my ex-husband, displaying some unease, inquired, "Is that document from the lawyer about the estate?" Although I was puzzled about how he knew, I saw no reason to conceal it. Upon my honest admission, his eyes lit up, and he probed about the inherited amount. A sense of foreboding crept over me. Attempting to divert his interest, I casually mentioned it was around $7 million, but his smug expression hinted he sensed a different figure. Despite my attempts to dismiss his suspicions, he persistently urged a more thorough check. Initially brushing him off nonchalantly, I eventually grew annoyed, stating firmly, "I've already told you it's $7 million. Why you keep asking?" His vague response, "I just have a feeling there might be more," left me frustrated, and I insisted that we put an end to the discussion. Strangely, from the next day onward, his demeanor changed, and he began ignoring me. Experiencing this unfamiliar treatment surprised me. Driven by pride, neither of us initiated conversation, and 2 months passed in silence. During this period, my former in-laws, usually considerate in notifying us before visiting, abruptly appeared at our home. Their unannounced arrival sparked concern, making me wonder if something serious had occurred. They greeted me, saying, "We heard about your recent inheritance from your aunt. Anne is over $100 million, right? Our house is getting old, and we've been considering renovations. We're proud of our son for marrying someone like you. How about we expand the house and add a room for you too? It's a great opportunity. Think about living together." My ex-father-in-law shared this proposal while my ex-mother-in-law nodded with a smile. I was taken aback, not only because my ex-husband knew the exact inheritance amount, but also at the audacity of my in-laws suggesting the use of that money for their home improvements. Despite my shock, they enthusiastically discussed plans, including an island kitchen and making the house more accessible. Unable to tolerate it any longer, I intervened, saying, "Please don't make decisions without consulting me." They even mentioned having already obtained a cost estimate, clearly counting on my inheritance, and seemed oblivious to any wrongdoing. Overwhelmed, I had many things I wanted to express, but wanting to avoid emotional confrontation, I simply asked them to leave for the day. Later that evening, I confronted my husband upon his return from work. Initially evasive, he eventually admitted to snooping into my bank book. The inheritance details were typically stored deep inside my dresser, indicating he thoroughly searched the room. His level of obsession disappointed me. I recounted the day's events with his parents, expressing my frustration. Unexpectedly, he argued, "We're a couple, so the money you inherit becomes joint property. The inheritance is also mine, and using it for my parents' house renovation is only natural. You're in the wrong for hiding the actual amount." Despite my ex-husband persistently defending his parents' actions, insisting I was at fault, it was clear that their behavior was unacceptable. Adding to the shock, he casually revealed in the conversation that he had quit his job. Confused, I questioned, "Hold on, what do you mean by that? If we're so well off, Can I live without working? With financial comfort, why endure a stressful job? It's a waste of time. If we live off your money, we can have a stress-free and peaceful life, enjoying our time. Renovating my parents' house would even boost your status as the son's wife. It's all beneficial. Why be so upset when there are only advantages? He expressed this with a frustrated look, leaving me feeling hopeless. While I expressed my willingness for the renovation, I clarified that I wasn't planning to fund it. This infuriated my ex-husband once again. The plans are already in motion. I remained indifferent, ignoring his continued ranting. The next day, he returned with his parents, complaining that the situation had changed. I retorted, "Changed? You made decisions without consulting me in the first place. Even if I had agreed, why would I fund it? This money isn't for renovating your parents' house, nor is it for supporting a son who quit his job without discussion. After all our kindness, and you, being wealthy yet so miserly, have some nerve." Disillusioned, I realized their true nature and informed them I had nothing more to discuss, asking them to leave. Upon hearing my straightforward reply, "I mean exactly what I said," my ex-husband began to panic. Inquiring if I was suggesting a divorce, I calmly informed him that we would discuss it with a lawyer and then ushered them away. Later, I packed my belongings and sought refuge in a business hotel. Despite my ex-husband persistently expressing his refusal to accept a divorce and professing his love for me, I responded by stating that his affection was likely for my money, not me, and proceeded to turn off my phone. The following day, I visited my parents and shared the unfolding events. They were disappointed but not surprised. When asked about my future plans, I revealed my consideration of divorce. My mother advised me to stand firm, sensing his reluctance to let go. They also suggested investigating if he had committed other wrongdoings. Following their advice, I hired a detective agency, discovering his frequent visits to nightlife establishments for questionable reasons. This revelation solidified my determination to pursue a divorce. Seeking legal assistance from a knowledgeable divorce lawyer, I formally requested a divorce from my then-husband, who vehemently rejected the idea. Not only did he refuse, but he also demanded compensation and the division of assets if I wanted a divorce. When the lawyer clarified that the inheritance from my relatives did not qualify as marital assets and was not subject to property division, my ex-husband argued against it. The lawyer posed a scenario. If his parents were to pass away, would he willingly hand over the inherited assets to his wife, claiming it as family money? He fell silent in response. Despite further lectures on the unreasonableness of his actions, my ex-husband, with tears in his eyes, pleaded for me to cover the renovation costs. Naturally, that was not an option, and he appeared utterly dejected. Later, I learned that the renovation had already been completed, assuming I would foot the bill, as he had arranged it in his name. Furthermore, the detailed renovation unexpectedly surpassed a total of 7 million yen. It appeared that his reluctance to agree to a divorce was rooted in his inability to meet these payments. I consistently maintained that regardless of our marital status, there was no justification for me to fund the renovation of his parents' home. Despite my firm stance, he audaciously attempted to negotiate, proposing that I cover half of the costs. However, he abandoned this pursuit when my lawyer threatened to sue him for extortion. Yet, not entirely conceding defeat, my ex-husband's parents even appeared at my family's house. In the end, my father had to intervene physically. The confrontation escalated, resulting in damage to a potted plant at the entrance, prompting us to call the police. When the police arrived to hear our side of the story, they became violent and were subsequently arrested. Naturally, the entire neighborhood became aware of this incident, and the gossip continued even after their release. Considering these tumultuous events, I openly shared the story with some neighbors who enjoyed gossip. Consequently, the audacity of my ex-husband's family became widely known throughout the neighborhood. Eventually, we finalized the divorce. However, even after the legal separation, I continued to receive messages from him expressing love and a desire to start over. In response, I obtained a restraining order through my lawyer. Recognizing the temporary nature of restraining orders, lasting at most 6 months, and given my ex-husband's apparent disregard for such legal measures, I decided to relocate with my parents to avoid potential retaliation. While I felt guilty about uprooting my parents from their familiar surroundings due to my circumstances, considering the various dangers and challenges we faced, moving seemed to be the only viable option. Consequently, we made the move discreetly, akin to fleeing in the night. Once things settled down, I informed my children about the decision. Although they were understandably shocked, they all empathized with my situation, acknowledging that under the circumstances, there was little else we could do. Life continued without major issues, but my ominous feelings proved accurate. Despite the restraining order, my ex-husband was found lingering near my former family home. A vigilant police officer, sensing something amiss, questioned him and discovered a small knife in his pocket, leading to his arrest. When my lawyer informed me about this development, including my ex's desire to talk, a chill ran down my spine. I shuddered to think of the potential danger if I hadn't moved away, naively relying on the restraining order for protection. Ultimately, my ex-husband was released sooner than anticipated since no one was harmed. However, the fear of returning to the area where my family home once stood lingers. For a brief period, I lost track of my ex, but a friend living near his family home provided updates. Following the renovation, heated arguments about finances became a daily occurrence. Phrases like, "You took out the loan in your name, so it's your responsibility," or "This house belongs to our parents, so they should cover the expenses," resonated loudly, making the nature of the conversations evident. Beyond verbal disputes, the sounds of objects being broken could be heard despite the recent renovation. The police were occasionally called to intervene, cautioning the family. There were also occasional remarks blaming me for the divorce or accusing others of supporting it. Before the inheritance issue, we had a decent relationship, and the bond between my ex and his father was strong. Witnessing how money could destroy these connections saddened me. Reflecting on my mother's words that money can change people, I now understand the truth behind that statement. Additionally, it appears that my ex-mother-in-law is urging my ex to find a job already, and his retort, "Shut up," is audible. It seems he still hasn't found employment, which might be challenging given his age. Due to my open sharing of the story, the neighbors are aware of our messy divorce. Consequently, nobody approaches the ex's family, fearing requests for money. Some even believe that going near their house could bring bad luck. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard this rumor. Currently, I reside in a moderately spacious rental apartment with my parents. Despite their constant encouragement to prioritize myself, the thought of remarriage doesn't even cross my mind. I've decided to spend the rest of my life with my parents. The fear lingers that if a potential partner discovers the inheritance, they might undergo a transformation similar to my ex-husband. Additionally, since I never had many hobbies or extravagant spending habits, I plan to maintain my usual lifestyle. I envision utilizing this inheritance for the well-being of my parents and myself in the future, especially if there's a need for special care in our old age or to celebrate significant milestones like my children's weddings or the arrival of grandchildren. Honestly, it's a substantial amount that won't deplete with casual spending. This money is a precious legacy from my admired aunt, and I intend to handle it with the same care she did. Lately, while working part-time, I've delved into learning about investments and financial management. It's proven to be a challenging endeavor, deepening my respect for my aunt, who skillfully managed it for many years. Although we lead content lives, occasional updates reach me about the challenging situation my ex-husband and his family are facing. However, since we are divorced, they are now strangers. Regardless of their struggles, I hope they navigate through them